Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hopenning. The Hopenning is a place where hope happens if you open your heart, your mind, and your soul to it. So, my beautiful co-host Marina and I are welcoming you to vlog number 21 in the series and the fourth in the series about grief and loss. My name is Fran, and I am a 33-year veteran elementary school teacher in Northern Alberta, Canada. I am also a part-time rapid transformational therapist. And my co-host, Marina, is a lifetime singer. She's also a full-time rapid transformational practitioner, and she began singing at a tender age, and her mom says she has always sung like a songbird. So welcome, Marina. And Marina, today we'll be talking about grief, again in the series on grief, but it's grief related to loss of relationship, not as a result of death. And this is poignant for me because I just got back from Vancouver, and that's why I'm so cold still. I'm sitting in a cold house. And so, Marina, with your background, with your experiences, I know that you're an expert on this. So I think that you'll help me through something here too. So welcome, Marina.
Thank you so much, Fran. Lovely introduction. Yes, I think we spend a lot of time in life on the grief of the loss of death, but there are other forms of losses as well that results in grief. And I think the older we get, the more we feel those losses. And it can be the loss of employment. It can be what we as society went through over the last 2 years, the loss of life as we knew it. It can be the loss of relationships. And today I really want to speak about mostly the loss of relationships that was not as a result of death. I have experienced both, and I think if you become a middle-aged person, you definitely have had your fair share of hurts as far as love relationships go. And I am extremely blessed today that I am in a phenomenal marriage. But it wasn't always like that. And I've had a lot of disappointments and a lot of heartbreak in my life. And sometimes I think of that kind of loss as the loss of hope. So I want to ask you, Fran, how would you describe this kind of loss of a relationship that did not work out?
Because of who I am and my past, I always second, third, fourth guess myself, right? I always question, what did I do wrong? Why wasn't whatever I put into the relationship enough? What did they not like about me? What wasn't likable? What did I attract into my life, right? Because as we give out, that's what we attract back. So I always question, what did I do wrong? And how do I need to fix myself? How do I again need to fix myself? So that's usually what goes through my mind. And as I get older, I get better at not beating myself up as much, but I still am not there yet.
Right. Now, in my experience, Fran, it is that element that the difference and the contrast between the loss of a relationship to death, which is a finality, and the loss of a relationship through it didn't work out, which that person is not dead. There's always that thought, what if I do this? What if I change this? Can it be healed? One of the best explanations of the pain and the loss between the loss of let's say, a life partner through death, and the loss of a life partner or a relationship through a separation, a divorce, a breakup, whatever that is if you take a piece of meat and you take a very sharp knife and you cut that piece of meat off, and it's a clean cut, and it's now two pieces of meat, it's a separation that happened, that is death, because it's final. And even though there's no pain that can really describe that, it's final. And we as human beings know that there's nothing we can do. We live in a what would have happened if I did? What if did I do something wrong? Could I have prevented this? But here's the other side of the spectrum. If you take that same piece of meat and you grab onto it on one end, grab onto it on the other end, and you pull it apart, that is the separation by decision. By it's not working out, I'm not happy anymore, I want a divorce, I want a separation, I want to break up with you. That leaves so many hurtful residue points in our hearts, our minds, and our emotions, that sometimes is very hard to overcome, because exactly as you say, we internalize. The first thing we do is we ask, what did I do wrong? What is wrong with me? What could I have done differently?
And as you know, as you talk about the analogy of meat, I think about, we say, I've just been through the meat grinder. So not only are you pulled apart, you're like through the meat grinder.
Right. It is extremely painful. I will never forget my first breakup. I was in high school and I had this lovely boyfriend, and I thought he was just amazing and extremely, I was so young, innocent. We went to a movie together and held hands, and I would blush beet red every time he would walk past me and say hi to me, come sit with me during intermission and hold my hand. And then 2 weeks later, he wrote me this letter and he said, no, this is not working for him. And that devastation, it was shortly before I had to go sing on stage. Shortly before, my sister handed the letter to me, and I stood there, and it was the hardest thing I've done in my life. That pain, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? And then there's one remnant, because there's not a finality. It's not that cut it off with a sharp knife situation. It is all this residue. A lot of us think that maybe if I do this, I can fix it. And then we go back, and then we get hurt again. So to me, I see this so often when people go over the same hurt over and over again in this situation, because there's not that finality. That is not that complete separation. So, Fran, in your life right now, how would you describe this lack almost of relationship? What does it mean to you? If you don't mind me asking such a personal question.
The lack of which relationship?
Of the relationship you want, of the dream, of the hope.
You know, I had a really good self-discovery talk with Franny as I drove home from the airport. It's a long, long drive from the airport. It's 5 hours.
Oh, goodness.
So it's a lot of time to talk and think about that. And, you know, I thought about the life lessons, and we can think about it as a failure, things that, or, you know, think about it as fail or pass, right? Or we can think about it as lessons and learning. And it's hard, because if you grew up thinking it's either pass or fail, if you get divorced, it's a failure. If your marriage is successful, it's a pass. It's an A+ as compared to an F. I think in teacher terms, sort of. But is that really what the universe, God, has for us? Is that really the intent, or is it all, Franny needs to learn a little bit more about this, about herself. So let's give her another occasion. Let's give Fran another occasion to learn this, because until she learns her own value, she needs another way of seeing it so that she learns her own value. And once she learns her own value, then she's learned that. I guess that's where I am right now.
My dog just came to say hi. So if you saw the door open, that's what happened. Yes, I'm so glad you brought that whole thing of failure up, because I think that's what a lot of people feel. And if you go through a breakup or a separation or a divorce, I'm going to stretch this a little bit further. I'm going to expand the boundary. A friendship or a relationship with a family member that has become hurtful and that does not serve you anymore, that's tough. That is the toughest thing. But it happens. It happens. And feeling like a failure is almost a constant. So I had a long conversation with somebody today who is in almost the exact same situation. Somebody who had a little taste of a relationship with that seemed very promising. And when it didn't work out, was absolutely heartbroken. And in the last few days, called this other person again because she heard that he had some sort of health issue. Or she messaged him, she didn't call him, and he ignored her. And it was almost that loss again, going through that agony and that loss and that devastation and that blame. And what did I do wrong? And she made a very interesting statement. She said, if her thoughts, and it comes back to what you said earlier, if she thinks, well, he still loves me, but he knows that it's not good for us to have contact, she feels really at peace. But if she thinks, oh my gosh, he never loved me, doesn't love me, she is devastated, and she would cry and mourn the loss of this relationship. So now I'm going to say, is it really the loss of a relationship that wasn't? Or is it the loss of the hope, the dream?
That it's both, I think. As you speak, as you say that, I'm reminded of other relationships in my life that, that didn't work out. And as I was so heartbroken. We always go back to our small child inside of us that experienced trauma, right? Experienced some kind of loss of hurtful trauma. And some of the things we do are really something that we would have done at that age. Like, I don't know about you, but I have, like as an adult, been so heartbroken about the loss of a relationship that I've crawled into my bed with my covers under my head and just sobbed. So, I mean, that's not something a mature woman usually does. But at that moment of my life, that's the only thing that I could do to feel comforted, which is quite bizarre. But I know I'm not alone in this. I know I'm not the only one who, as a mature woman, who would have crawled under the covers and hit her head and just sobbed under the covers. Or as a mature woman, I don't think I have, I mean, I don't have total recognition of like just being, like I just text him back and just say, you were horrible and mean and don't ever contact me again, which isn't something a mature woman would do. However, we've reverted back to this teenager maybe that was super hurt. And at that point in our life, being an immature teenager, yeah, that's what we did. So it's super interesting about how we revert back to maybe something that happened to us at a certain age when there was trauma. And we just keep on reliving, we do it again because we haven't learned that lesson yet, I guess.
Well, and I don't know if I agree with you that that's not what mature women do. I think it's letting the pain out, and doesn't matter what. Some people will eat a whole bucket of ice cream, and some people will not eat at all. Everybody mourns that loss in a different way. But what I love to do for my clients, and this goes universally as far as grief and loss goes, I want to change the meaning. And you said something, and that's exactly where my thoughts went about this. It's not a failure, it's a lesson. So if we can change the meaning, if you would have had a relationship with every man you ever fell in love with, they would not have worked. Not all men on this planet, or all people on this planet that we fall in love with, are meant to be in a relationship with us. So I always think of grief as, it's not even a coat that you wear, it's a second skin. And especially death, it is, and devastating loss of relationships as well. It never goes away. But you can make it stronger, and you can change the meaning. And a lot of people can get stuck in their grief. And there's a lot of different situations. Stuck in their grief can also mean, how fast can I find somebody else without dealing with the pain? So every single person deals with this differently. And in my life, when I lost my boyfriend in 2007, I dealt with it differently. I was that one who said, okay, how fast can I go into a relationship? Because I wanted to feel loved. That was the way I dealt with it, and tried to shove it to the background. In the end, I had to go back and deal with it, because that was not dealing with it. It was trying to shove it away. So how do we deal with grief? How do we change the meaning? How do we deal with loss of a relationship? And let's talk now specifically about a breakup, a separation, a divorce. How do we deal with that loss? For a lot of people, it is absolutely devastating. It is life-changing. It is like that piece of meat that was pulled apart. So how do you get over that? How do you change the meaning? And one of my favorite things on this planet is, you were saying something earlier, where you want to write them a text message and say, you are such a horrible person and I hate you. And I'm going to tell you a funny story. I once walked out on a date because the guy, I met him online, misrepresented himself. And he told me that he is the certain person, but when I met him in a coffee shop, it was completely different. And he did that to me because he then emailed me the next day and saying, would you like to go on a second date? And I said to him, I walked out. That was not a date. I don't want to go out with you. You misrepresented yourself. And he sent me that nasty message. And I still laugh about that today. He said to me, that's okay. I don't want to go out with you anyway because you look like a transvestite. And I laughed and laughed and laughed about that for the longest time. And I even at some point wrote a play about that because I was on the receiving end of one of those before. But what if we don't do that? What if we send a blessing instead? What if we thank the person for the blessing that you have received through this relationship and for the lessons you've learned through it? And one of my favorite exercises is the Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian principle of forgiveness. Thank you. So thank you for the time that you have spent with me. I don't care if it's a day, a week, a year, 10 years. I don't care. But thank you, that blessing. And I am sorry that it's so hard for me to let you go, but this is a step for me in that direction. Please forgive me for my shock, but please understand. And then a part of me will always have a room in my heart for you, but I'm letting you go. I'm setting you free. I'm blessing you. And that is such a different energy than you bad person. It's a healing energy. So that's one of the first things I do is when somebody asks me, how can they get away from this? How can they get untangled emotionally from this relationship? And that's a very strong one, is to just express that blessing, change the meaning. And then another thing is, I don't believe in revenge, but I do believe that if you can pull yourself together and you play this game in your mind, it's like Marissa Peer says, tell yourself a better lie. What if you can become that person that if that guy see you 2 years down the line on the road, he will regret that he let you go? What if you just become so strong within yourself? And that brings me to the third point, become strong within yourself. And this is not a talk about love, but to me, it comes back to the same thing. What if you can find that fulfillment within yourself first before you go look for it elsewhere? What if that fulfillment within yourself becomes so strong that your desire to look for it elsewhere just falls away? Because then you will see the law of attraction at work. When you become love, love comes. But when you look for it, it runs away.
I really like those. So if you, what you're saying is the relation, like a relationship between, two perhaps lovers or two potential lovers or whatever. What happens if it's a relationship in a family where like, I don't know about you, Marina, I have a little inkling, but I think you know me quite well as well. And not everybody, even if their blood is always got their best interests, so sometimes there's relationships that are family relationships that are not healthy, that are toxic, that put you in a place that is not in your highest self, where you feel that you are being disrespected, or at this point in my life, I really can't have a relationship with this person, even though they're family.
We grow up in a culture where we feel and we are being taught that you have an obligation towards family, but it's family, friend. But it's your this, it's your that, it's your close relation. How can you turn your back on them? And that's hard. And unfortunately, it's something that I've gone through myself, where that relationship just became so burdensome to me. And it was one of the toughest decisions that I made in my life, was to say, I need to pull myself away. Not just because that relationship didn't serve me, but because I triggered the other person to the extreme. And I could not bear that responsibility anymore. So again, can you love yourself so much that you put up those boundaries? We also, in our culture and society, we as women specifically tend to give. And we want to fix things. We're natural caregivers. And if one of our family members are hurting, we want to fix them. One great example is the movie Osage County or Country, something like that, with Meryl Streep. That is a movie that really spoke to me about somebody that just said enough. And then a brilliant book is the book Educated by Tara Westover. Similar situation where her father, because of his extreme beliefs, did not even want her to go to school. And she had to get to the point where she said enough. And today she has a PhD. But to get to that point, that's one of the toughest things on this planet to do. And it's tough because a lot of times you would hear another family member said, but why do you not forgive so-and-so? And it has nothing to do with forgiveness anymore. But it has to do with self-preservation, knowing who I am, setting up the boundaries, but always, always, always be kind. Always. I can be glib. I can be. We all can. And we can say, oh, you know what? I don't speak with this person anymore. And, you know, this person did this and ha, ha, ha. And this person is such a loser. Oh, no, no. So that same blessing, that same Ho'oponopono, I am so sorry that I have to set up a boundary between you and me. Please forgive me for that. This may be only for a season, but it may be for a lifetime. Thank you for all the lessons that I've learned in my life from having you as a family member, including the situation. It has made me strong. And I will always love you. And I think again of Wayne Dyer, who said, always be kind. Always be kind. And when you're hurt, sometimes it's hard to be kind. You know the saying, hurt people, hurt people.
Mhm. And I think about your analogy of the meat and the two people that are hanging on to the meat. What would happen if one of us just let go of the meat?
Isn't that a good one? Yes.
Let go of the meat. And nobody's
right.
No, you know, you just let go of the meat. Boy, that's tough. That's the Ho'oponopono.
Ho'oponopono.
Yeah, that one. I need to write it on my wall.
Yeah.
I need to write it on my wall, fill in the blanks of all the all the times it needs to be used. And I think I will do that, is actually write the script with a blank.
Right.
And then every time I need to use it, because you and I, we've done a lot of work on ourselves, right? We've done a lot of work on ourselves. And I think about where I was and where I am, and there's a mountain between where I was and where I am, and yet there's always another mountain to travel, right? There's always another mountain, and I think there will be until we all reach the ocean. And it's beautiful. I love what you said. And I'm going to play this many, many times, Marina. If we get lots and lots of likes on YouTube, that'll be me, because I'll be playing it on all kinds of different devices, right?
That's
Feel
sweet.
like, I need to play that again. I need to remember it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
No, it's
RTP.
constant work, friend. Sorry. It's constant
Yeah.
work. It's constantly reminding myself, be nice. Be nice.
Yeah, constant work. And I think, what is life unless you're learning, right?
Right.
What is life unless you continue to grow and develop yourself?
Right.
So,
And we do come to these decisions because of hurt. And I always think of, if somebody comes and hit you very hard in your arm and it leaves a bruise, it's painful and you touch it and like, ouch. What if you allow that person to come back every day and hit you on exactly the same spot? So I use the words, what if you allow it? What if you don't? What if you say, you know what? I'm now putting a protection around me, but you cannot come hit me anymore. You can hit towards me, but you cannot hit me anymore. And then always bring up that perspective from the 4 agreements. Nothing somebody else does is, you shouldn't take it personally, because what they do is a reflection of their own reality, their own dream. It has nothing to do with you. And now, the moment you created that protection, that barrier, you can still see them hitting towards you, but they're not hitting you anymore. And you see them take the action, and then suddenly you think, wow, you must be in so much pain, because it doesn't hurt you anymore. You create distance, and with distance comes perspective.
yeah, to actually say to yourself consciously about the person who keeps on hitting you in the arm.
Yeah.
You put up your barrier, you put up your boundary, and whether you visualize that boundary, as you were talking, I was kind of visualizing the boundary. It's like some kind of a reflective metal, right? We're protective of you, but as you put up that boundary, it also reflects back on them. What are you doing here? Like they would see themselves punching and be like, whoa, what am I actually doing to this person who...
But there is a very necessary detachment from that as well, friend, because I said earlier that there's almost the responsibility when you trigger somebody else. They make you responsible for that. Like in my case, just by being successful, trigger somebody else.
Yeah.
I cannot take that responsibility. I did for a long time, until I got to a point where I'm like, no, I need to live my life to my fullest potential. And as long as every single time I'm worried about how much whatever I do is going to hurt this person, it's holding me back. I'm not living my full potential. So I had to create a detachment from the responsibility to help this person. It's not my job. And that is a tough decision to get to. I cannot help everybody. And the first person we have to help in this life is ourselves. The oxygen mask.
Yeah, and I guess if we think we can, or we think we should be helping everybody, it's really just deflecting, looking at ourselves first, Like if we know that there's something niggling at us about ourselves, but instead we go out and try to fix people in the meantime, it just prevents and postpones looking at ourselves and looking at our responsibility with not fixing ourselves, but learning the lesson, right? As long as you keep on putting off the homework, we'll never learn how to do the algebra.
I remember the epiphany I had in 2010, and I talked about this before when I talked about the Finding Love episode. One realization was when I realized that I didn't love myself was this knowingness that I'm so broken. I'm so broken in knowing how to love myself and accepting myself, loving myself. How can I, from this broken perspective, love my children? What if I heal and then love my children? Wouldn't that be a much better love I can give them? And all of us does the same with the way we are. But if we start to take those profound steps in healing from the inside out, it is amazing.
Mhm. Yeah. And another good friend of mine, she said, okay, if you can't heal the little Franny inside, if I can't heal the little Franny inside at this moment, imagine that the little Franny inside is my 5-year-old daughter. What would I say to my 5-year-old daughter in that same situation, or even my 27-year-old daughter in this same situation that I'm experiencing right now? We would come out fight like you and I, we would be the mama bear, right? We would be the mama bear protecting our offspring. And so if we can't uh, do the self-compassion, the self-love at this moment in time, right, this very moment, we can be the mama bear for our child, if in that same situation. It's like, no, you do not treat little Franny or little whoever it is this way. This is not correct, and you will not be treated this way. I will not allow that to happen to you ever again. And so those are all building blocks to help us become self-compassionate, become radically self-accepting in our brokenness. Because if we had our little girl was broken, we would just nurture her so much, right? Our child, your grandchild, we would nurture them so much. And yet some of us tend to continue to blame our own brokenness on ourselves rather than just that radical self-acceptance and self-love to heal.
It's so important. And, I'm thinking as you talk also about if you really want to attract a love relationship, like attracts like.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are broken from the inside, is that really who you want in your life?
Mm-hmm.
So isn't it
Exactly.
worth then to take care of you first so that you
Exactly.
can attract somebody that meets you on that level?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as a segue, so how can RTT, the therapy that we do, Marina, rapid transformational therapy, help in the grief of the loss of relationships not due to death?
I think every individual, every client that comes to you has a complete different meaning that they put to this. And sometimes it can be they went through, they the child of a divorced household, so they never really came over that. So then while we do RTT with them, we go and heal that child. We go and change that story for them. But every person is different. And, so to me, I would go and ask the subconscious mind, why is grief so important for this person? Why do they cling to grief? Why do they want to hold on to a relationship that's not meant to be? And 99% of the time, it is something that triggered a thought with them in childhood. So again, you talked about little Franny. You're going to go heal little Franny. And it sometimes can be, I'm not lovable. It can sometimes be that expectation, like nobody will love me. Every single relationship will fail. I'm a failure. I'm not good enough. And then we go and we tell them, no, go change that radio station. Go find a better one.
Mm-hmm.
Find one that tells you you are amazing. You're worthy. You're meant to be. You're whole. You are a treasure. And if they start to listen to that, and you start to see how they start to light up like a Christmas tree every day more and more, but every day they become more and more ready. It's interesting because I've had a few clients now who come to me in relationships where they feel so much discontent that they feel maybe I should not be in this relationship. And once we go and heal this, the self-love aspect, they suddenly are like new people. And I even had one husband say, "What did you do with my wife?" Like, wow, it's like we were newlyweds again. So it's just, we give so much weight on other people when a lot of times the answer is right within ourselves.
Yeah. And as you say, light up like a Christmas tree. Um, and sometimes that is so true. It's like you plug in the Christmas tree and it's brilliant of light.
Mhm.
And sometimes the lights come on one by one by one by one, right? And it's a little bit feeling a little bit better each day, and a little bit better, a little bit, and suddenly it's like a month later, the phone call comes, or the text message comes, or the email saying, "Fran, I just feel so much better, and I didn't think it would happen. I didn't know how this would work, and yet it's like a miracle." And it is like a miracle. It's truly transformational. It's truly transformational. And yeah, it's a beauty. And I think those of us who are therapists, we came from the brokenness. We came from the brokenness, and we know, like, we don't know everything. We don't know everybody's path. We haven't experienced, and that's the beauty of what we do. We all have a different history, but if you put all these histories together, we've got such a wealth of experience that it's like peanut butter on the bread. It's like covers up the whole piece of bread without having to do much, without having to do a whole lot of work there. It's like you and I, our shoes have walked a lot of pebbles in our day. Even though it might not be exactly the same, we've walked a lot. Yeah.
Just keep on changing the meaning.
Keep on changing the meaning, and keep
Yeah.
on remembering nobody's
Right.
perfect. Nobody is
You know,
perfect.
in lots of relationships, not due to death, again, it is so important to see it as a growth, and to see it as the growth towards finding yourself. And that to me is just the most important thing. I've always said that if there's one thing I want to do in this life, it's to master myself. I want to master myself. And I'm trying. I'm learning every day. And with that is to do make mistakes, to do have hurt. If you do not know what hurt feels like, how will you ever know what happiness feels like?
Yeah.
So again, another way to overturn that hurt, the grief, the loss, the disappointment, the loss of a dream is gratitude. The gratitude to me is one of the biggest miracle makers on this planet. So let's take your situation. You flew back from Vancouver today. What if you say today, tonight, before you go to bed, I'm so happy and grateful that I went. I'm so happy and grateful that I was true to who I am and I didn't jump into something that's not meant to be. I'm so happy and grateful that I honored my feelings. I'm so happy and grateful that I know this was not the right situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy and grateful that I love myself enough to have put a boundary up.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we focus on will increase. And if you are going to say, oh, again, another failure, what's wrong with me? That will increase.
Mhm.
That will become more.
And,
So gratitude is just the magic that's amazing.
and I even as you speak there and you said, um, what's wrong with me? You use the words, what's wrong with me? And then the universe will show you all the things you asked. I'm
Yeah.
giving, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, be careful what we say, right?
Right.
Be careful what we say to ourselves, but and also be careful what we ask the universe, because the universe will tell us or give us the lesson to be learned. As you're speaking there and you want to master that, it's like, I think I've got a PhD.
Right.
What is PhD happening? I just haven't written a thesis on it yet.
Well, can you remember, Fran, the New Year's message we had was, I said that I went in this year, I went to capture all my thoughts.
Yes.
And it's a conversation I had with somebody today, again, is it is so important. And capturing your thoughts doesn't mean that you always think the right thoughts, but it means that you can transmute every thought. So if you catch yourself thinking the thought, what is wrong with me? Why not say, oh, no, 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 I'm not thinking that. I'm going to think, I'm so grateful for everything that's right with me.
Mm-hmm.
So recently I purchased Dr. Joe Dispenza's brand new meditation, The Alchemist.
Oh, yeah.
And that I can highly recommend it. And because that is all about turning down the thoughts. Go to that place where you really don't allow yourself to have thoughts. And to me, emotions is another one. The two goes hand in hand. And just be there. Just be there for a few minutes a day. Just turn those thoughts down.
Yeah. Like your radio station, right? Instead of,
Exactly.
you just bump that dial a little bit,
Exactly. Yeah.
and it's no longer on that radio station. It's just, one off.
Mhm.
Instead of 96.7, it's 96.6, which gives you a whole new frequency, a whole different playlist.
Mhm.
Mhm. I
Yeah,
love
it's
it.
amazing stuff. So anyway, Fran, I know we said we're going to have Julie Moore this week, but because of the long weekend, we will have Julie next week. So the book, Pet Soul Book by Julie Moore, is about grieving after losing a pet. And I know I have family members who never had children. So when they get a pet, it's really their children. And
Mhm.
even my own, I have a dog that I love and a cat that is just the sweetest thing on this planet. It is tough. It is tough to go through that. And I was telling you about this last week, how Julie came up with an entire guide. And the last part of this is where you can write down and kind of use this as a journal as well. So it's there's some list in there, and she will tell us that. So there are thoughts and ideas that you can write down from the different chapters and use this kind of as a journal. And you can even have your pet's photo in this book.
Oh,
So honestly, I've been thinking about this a lot because I think anybody I know who has an elderly pet, this would be an extremely good book to buy for them. And so we will interview Julie next week, and I cannot wait to introduce you to Julie.
me too. I think of two beautiful people in my life right now. Actually, more than that, but two in particular whose pets are elderly, like you said.
Mhm.
And loss of a pet is a deep loss. It's a
It
deep
is.
loss,
Mhm.
and not the whole world doesn't understand that, right? The whole world,
Yeah.
but once
There's
you,
an unconditional love that you get from pets, and I'm pretty sure we'll talk about that more next week. It is beyond the human comprehension, and humans can be nasty things. And once you capture the love of a pet, you have it. They're always the same. they're always loyal, they're always just amazing. And so it's a wonderful love to have, but it's a devastating love to lose.
Mhm.
So I highly recommend this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Marina. Well, it's been wonderful again to see you again, and I
You
hope
as well.
you had a wonderful long weekend as well.
Thank you, Fran. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's turn onwards. Okay.
Yeah, and thank you again, everyone, for spending the time with us today. And as we all walk through our journeys of grieving loss of relationships, whether due to death or whether due to other reasons, I wish you blessings on yours.
Thank you, Fran.